whether you're the applicant, the owner, someone else related to the project, or a neighboring property owner. So we'll start with Andrew Porter. Andrew, if you could unmute for me.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
I can. Yeah.
Yeah. Andrew Porter, Park Sensi, company manager, applicant.
Okay. Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Natalie Morris.
Natalie Morris with ABC Signs, representing Park Cincy as the applicant.
Okay. Welcome. Megan Meyer.
Megan Meyer with ABC Signs, representing Park Cincy as well.
Okay. Do you have multiple? Are you two in the same room, perhaps? Okay. I know you're muted now, Megan.
She's muted now, and we'll just use my voice for us.
Okay, that's great. Sounds good. Thanks, and welcome, Megan. All right, and then James Carpenter.
Hello, James Carpenter here on behalf of the applicant also.
Okay, great. Welcome. Are we expecting anyone else to join us here on the applicant side? Or are you all ready to get started?
I think this is
okay.
it.
Great, fantastic. All right, we also have Matt Lascheid here from the City Planning Department. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, good morning, David. Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Hi, Matt.
All right. So I need to read through our hearing script. This will just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we'll get started. So this is the December 18th, 2024 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. Again, my name is David Sturkey. I'll be presiding over the hearing. The case before us today is case number ZHUV240011. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. For our purposes here today, I know we have several people here representing the applicant. So one of you can speak, all of you can speak. It's really up to you how you want to orient that presentation. I'll just leave that up to all of you, but that'll be your opportunity to tell me about the project, what you're proposing, the zoning relief you need, and why you think that zoning relief is appropriate. If we did have anyone here from the public, they'd have an opportunity to speak after you all had presented your case. I will hear from the planning department, Mr. Lascheid, to provide any testimony in addition to a staff report. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that testimony that was offered in opposition, and then finally make any closing statements. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly. But to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. So if you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, really doing anything other than just strictly observing, then the zoning code requires that I swear you in. So if that's you, if you could take yourself off mute now, I need everyone to raise their right hand and to answer out loud. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started then. Who's going to take the lead here on the applicant's presentation?
Hi, good morning. Again, my name is Natalie Morris, and this is Megan Meyer. We are with ABC Signs. We are here on behalf of Park Cincy to request 2 pole signs with electronic message centers at 100 East 9th Street. We do have James Carpentier here from ISA to cover the variance request in more detail. Megan and I will be here at the end to answer any questions about the presentation. James?
Thank you so much, Natalie. And I am going to share my screen right now. I have a PowerPoint presentation. Here we go. Does that work, or would you like to have full screen?
I can see it. I can see this slide.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, once again, James Carpentier here, and here to present the narrative for the use and dimensional variances at 100 East 9th Street. That's weird. Huh. For some reason, it's not forwarding. Let me see if I can kick this thing into gear. Okay. Well, this is just a site location map that just shows the 100 East 9th Street site, which is on the south side, East 9th Street. To the west is Walnut Street, and on the north side is Court Street. There's 2 parcels here. We'll be focused on 100 East 9th Street though. Oh, now it's working, good. And this is just an aerial view just to give you a feel for the location. It's, you know, like I said, we're going to focus on East 9th Street, but it's important because we are doing improvements to the entire site as a result of this variance request. And I just wanted to point out, here's that there's a little bit of red brick here, which will come into play later. Here's the site plan. The orientation is to the north, is to the left, to my left. So we're proposing 2 pylon signs, both 10 feet setback from the right-of-way and 10 feet from each respective entrance. And the proposed pylon signs are both 14 feet tall and 32 square feet. And they are 6mm full color units, which is really a high resolution unit, which will have really great visibility, and there will be no articulation when you're looking at it, either as a pedestrian or as someone driving by the site.
I'm not sure what articulation means in this context.
Oh, there'll be no. Basically, you won't be able to see. Maybe the word I'm looking for is pixel. You won't see any pixelation, which will mean some signs like a price changer sign. You can see each little LED. In this case, this is a high resolution, so you will not have any of that at all. It'll be a really, really crisp. Really, it's a high resolution unit at 6 mil. Okay. And I just wanted to show the fencing that was previously approved. And this is going to be going around the entire site, obviously, except for the 5 entrances. And it's brick with iron, and it complements that brick that I showed on that aerial view a little bit. And it's going to be going around the entire site, even the portion that doesn't have the Court Street historic overlay. And the variance request, a use variance is required for both EMCs as stated in 1411-39. EMCs are permitted only as marquee signs or large-scale recreation, entertainment use, hotel, or convention center. And a dimensional variance is required for both signs as stated in 1411-35A. Parking ID signs are limited to a maximum of 16 square feet. A dimensional variance of 16 square feet, therefore, is required for both 32 square foot EMCs. The parcel is zoned DDC, Downtown Development District. The 2 EMCs are both located on 100 East 9th Street site. Both electronic message centers are 32 square feet and 16 square feet in height as mentioned. The northern parcel on Court Street is located within the Court Street Historic District, and proposing that brick and iron fence around the entire site, which was approved on October 18th. The City of Cincinnati sign regulations do not include specific illumination standards for EMCs. So therefore, we propose some best practices for brightness standards. We propose both EMCs not to exceed 3/10 foot candle over ambient light, which has been adopted by the state of Ohio, Columbus, and several other jurisdictions in the state and hundreds of jurisdictions throughout the country, and works really well. We propose to include automatic dimming so that the brightness will automatically adjust from day to nighttime and changing conditions such as from a bright day to a cloudy day. And also a hold time, we would agree to a hold time of 10 seconds so as to comply with the code and not to be considered a flashing sign. We believe this proposal will greatly enhance the public health, safety, and welfare. The owner will agree to participate in the Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, or IPAWS, on both EMCs. IPAWS is FEMA's national system for local alerting that provides authenticated emergency and life-saving information to the public through various media such as severe weather warnings, Amber Alerts, and other life-saving notifications. You do not typically see this information provided on on-premise signs. Billboards that typically use them throughout the country. We believe the project is in the public interest. The proposed work conforms to the underlying zone district regulations and is in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the code and the LDC. This proposal is not an expansion of an existing parking lot, rather an enhancement for the 103 Court Street and 100 East 9th Street parcels, which brings the site parcel on the north side of the parking lot, in particular adjacent to Court Street, in compliance with the conservation guidelines of the Court Street Historic District. Section 6B of the Conservation Guidelines of Court Street Historic District recommends the size and number of signs be simple, bold designs on a minimal number of signs which communicate more clearly than many competing signs. Both parcels each have a total of 5 entrances, allowing for 5 16-square-foot signs, which equals 80 square feet. To comply with the intent of 6B, the applicant will combine the 5 allowed 16-square-foot signs for each parcel into 2 32-square-foot signs, both located on the south parcel on 9th Street. This will meet the intent of the guidelines by reducing the number of competing signs by 3, in addition to reducing the overall allowed sign area by 16 square feet. And the applicant would agree to a SIP that would limit the allowable signs on both parcels to those that are proposed as a part of this variance application. The conservation guidelines of Court Street District specific guidelines 1, parking lots. A, screening. The character of the district can be strengthened by screening parking lots. This is critical where parking lots abut sidewalks, which is the case here. B, a guideline. Cars should be screened from public view. Appropriate screening methods include masonry screen walls or iron fencing in character with the district, which is exactly what we are proposing here. We are proposing the masonry iron fencing screen wall to comply with this guideline. And the standards outlined in 1445-15, neither the owner nor any of its predecessors caused a nonconformity. The hardship condition noted is clearly an existing site condition that is not created by actions of the applicant or any of its predecessors. And special circumstances or conditions pertaining to this subject property cause the strict application of the code to be unreasonable and would result in practical difficulties. This surface parking lot has access from 3 streets in the DDC district. This site condition creates the need for enhanced parking lot signs that is also in keeping with the Court Street Historic District to minimize the number of signs and at the same time ensure that safe and effective legibility. 1445-16 use variance standards. The property cannot be put into any economically viable use under any of the permitted uses in the zoning district. The 16 square foot parking lot ID sign as required by 1411-35 is in violation with the U.S. Supreme Court decision Reed versus Town of Gilbert. Since a reviewer of an application would need to read the sign to determine compliance with the sign. It would have to be a parking lot ID sign. And if it wasn't, it would be not in compliance with the code. The limitation on speech as required by 1411-35 hampers the owner to convey information to the public, such as real-time availability of parking and PSA announcements, public service announcements, such as iPause. The evidence-based model code, which I attached with the application, recommends a sign area of 53 square feet for this right-of-way and a speed limit which is 37 square feet, greater than the 16 square feet required for parking lot signs. So the limitation of a 16 square foot sign will have compromised visibility, legibility, and safety based on that evidence-based model code standard.
So is, to be clear here, under that last slide,
Sure.
the property cannot be put to any economically viable use under any of the permitted uses in the zoning district. So is your contention that with the existing signs, this parking lot is no longer economically viable?
Well, under the existing code, we believe that that is too strict in relation to what can be put on the sign, and that the evidence-based model code, the sign area that's needed for that site at 53 square feet would be adequate. Anything less than that is not adequate. With the electronic message centers, though, at 32 square feet, they're much more effective than a static sign, so we think that'll work just fine.
So, sorry, let me just make sure I have it, because so you're asking for an electronic message center under the exception under the use variance standards. And
right.
One of those standards is that a demonstration that the property cannot be put to any economically viable use. And then under the variance standards, you're asking for an exception to the size requirement. So ignoring the size for a minute, what about the electronic messaging piece of this takes it from not economically viable to economically viable?
The EMC part of it provides for the ability to go beyond the way the code reads right now and provide information that deals with public health, safety, and welfare in relation to IPAWS and real-time parking information.
Okay.
That would be, I think that the flexibility in the messaging is pretty important in relation to the type of use.
Got it.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Okay. So back to the request. Therefore, we respectfully request approval of the use and dimensional variances due to. We believe it meets all of the general standards listed in 1445-13 and also all the use variance standards listed in 1445-16 and special circumstances due to the parking lot has access from 3 streets in the DDC district. The site condition creates a need for enhanced parking lot signs that is also in keeping with the Court Street Historic District to minimize the number of signs and at the same time ensure safe and effective visibility and legibility. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Sure. One other question. I'm hearing 3 streets, and I've walked through this parking lot probably more than 100 times in my life, or parking lots. has always considered them, and that's sort of at the heart of my question. Is there still a curb in the middle dividing the two lots, the two parking lots? And if so, are cars intended to be crossing over that curb? Like, where's the access from the three streets? I see Walnut and
Yeah,
was that
there's
Ninth? Walnut and Ninth. Where's the third street? Unless I'm missing something.
okay. There's an access here, one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Does that?
Yeah, you said access from three streets. I'm just, I mean, it's not a huge deal. I'm just
Yeah,
want to make
and
sure that that it is three streets that access the 100 East
yeah.
9.
Oh, the 100 East 9. Well, I'm
Yeah.
talking I'm talking the entire site. There's
The entire
three.
site.
Yeah, I'm looking at the entire site.
Okay, my fault. All right. I think that's all the questions I have right now. Could you go back to the slide that has the location of the signs? Are
Mhm.
they? Yeah, I assume they're different
Oh.
than the existing. Yeah,
You're talking
where
the
they are
site.
on the site. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, thanks.
Yep.
So
Sorry.
is that the same where they're the same location that the static signs are currently located? No, it looks like one's on the corner now.
Yeah, there's one
They're
on the
gonna move
corner.
that.
I think let's see, and there's another on this corner. And tell me if I'm wrong, Natalie. And
I believe there are 3 existing static signs, whether or not they are attached to like lighting poles or you know what? I don't know that one is actually freestanding. If I'm correct, I believe there are 3 existing that are currently mounted to some type of pole that is currently on the vicinity.
Yep, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's all the questions I have now. Thank you, Mr. Carpentier,
mhm.
for your presentation. I appreciate that. Is there anyone else from the applicant team that wanted to make any comments on this before I turn it over to the planning department?
Yes, actually, I would really quickly. So the notes that we made about the park or the fencing structure, that is actually that has technically not been applied for through the city yet. So the approval that was mentioned is between us and Park Cincy directly. We've kind of made that proposal. They are looking into getting some quotes for that scope of work to be completed. So the idea behind portraying the fencing is just to give you an idea of what the overall site improvement would look like if approved, everything is to be completed. Because I believe they might be planning on doing the fence regardless, but the idea of them complementing the new signage would be more beneficial, essentially. So that's why we included that there.
Got it. Okay. So the fencing is not currently up around either parking lot here or
That is
the
correct.
full site?
So
Okay.
there is a lot, I want to say 2, maybe 3 blocks away that's right directly off of Central Parkway, and that's the same exact design that we kind of based this one off of.
Mhm.
Got it. Okay. All right. Appreciate that clarification. Anything else?
And I just had
Mm.
one more thing about the iPaws. We do have a pamphlet about all the iPaws information if you wanted me to send that to you for records or anything, but we do have a small pamphlet that I can send over to you if you need it.
That's completely up to you. If you'd like to include it as a part of the case record, I'm happy to accept that. I mean, my understanding is that will, generally speaking, give out sort of emergency alerts or public
Mhm.
service sort of alerts. Is that right?
So any emergency alerts, severe weather, natural disasters, amber alerts, evacuation notes, shelter in place, civil emergency messages, so public safety, health alerts and terrorist threat alerts, and then public notifications for presidential alerts, local authority alerts, and public infrastructure alerts. Infrastructure.
Got it. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm if you'd like to email that information over, I'd be happy to add it to the record. Okay, unless there's anything else right now, I think I'll turn it over to Mr. Lashide to provide any testimony if he'd like, in addition to a staff report.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Sturkey, and thank you to the applicant team. Yeah, I'll just briefly outline the nature of this case, why we're here, and what our findings were based on the zoning code requirements. So use variance is required for a changeable copy sign here in the DD district, and a size variance is required to allow such sign to be 32 square feet instead of 16 square feet. So in reviewing that, we have to review the use variance standards in the zoning code. So the first one that I believe Mr. Sturkey requested previously, the property cannot be put to any economically viable use under any of the permitted uses in the zoning district. No evidence has been submitted demonstrating that the property cannot be put to a economically viable use. The property has operated as a parking lot with the existing signage for more than 20 years. There are several other parking lots in the immediate vicinity that have the same type of permitted signage as is already there. So there's no evidence demonstrating that this type of sign is necessary. The second criteria is that the variance stems from a condition that is unique to the property. Again, there's no evidence submitted that there is a unique circumstance to this property. There are a lot of other parking lots in downtown that some of them may have frontage on 2 streets like this site does. There's nothing else. None of these other parking lots have changeable copy signs like what's being requested. The third criteria is that the hardship condition is not created by actions of the applicant. That's not applicable here because there is no hardship condition. The fourth, the granting of the variance will not adversely affect the rights of adjacent property owners. It may, it's adjacent to a historic district and several other residential properties. The granting of the variance will not adversely impact the community character, public health, safety, or general welfare. And I'd reiterate that, and this is listed in our staff report, but it is near a historic district and several other residential properties. Lastly, the variance will be consistent with the general intent of the zoning code. It is not, there's no intent for this. And I would just encourage you to look through letter F on page 7 of the staff report. Lastly, the variance sought is the minimum that will afford relief to the applicants. No evidence has been submitted that this relief is necessary, so there is no minimum required here. So for the use variance for an electronic message center, because no evidence has been submitted that the application meets any of the required use variance criteria, staff recommends denial. The second request is for a dimensional variance to allow these signs to be 32 square feet instead of the required 16 square feet. Looking through those requirements, the 2 criteria are, is there a special circumstance or condition that applies only to this property where strict application of the code is unreasonable? And no special circumstance has been identified. There are several other parking lots downtown that have a similar condition, and they've operated historically for decades with parking lot signage similar to what is existing and what is permitted. And secondly, is it necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right enjoyed by others in the immediate vicinity? So we would ask, are there other parking lots in the immediate area that have signage that is 32 square feet? And no, there are no other parking facilities in the area with electronic message centers at all, or with signage of the proposed size. So because the application does not meet any of these criteria, staff recommends denial.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate your testimony and your work on the staff report. All right, so I'll turn it back over to the applicants here to respond to testimony from Mr. Lashide and push back if you'd like on any of those contentions.
Well, I would disagree that there's absolutely no evidence in relation to the hardship and the unique location of this site in relation to I'd actually have to go back to my presentation, but I would say that there certainly is a hardship based upon, you know, you know, the actual location, the site, and there are some unique characteristics to the site.
James, if you don't mind, if I can step in. Sorry, guys. Okay, there we go. So just something I kind of want to mention, not that it necessarily has anything to do with code, but I think we're all aware that down on Court Street, you know, they're doing a lot for those buildings, the streets themselves. There is a lot of change going on, and kind of making everything a bit easier for pedestrians to get through, as well as traffic to get through. You know, that whole kind of strip there has kind of been turned around to be more welcoming, be more open. And I think the proposal that we have here would, you know, it would complement what's already been done there. So while it may not, there may not be a specific hardship or such as that, what we're proposing would kind of go along with the new changes being made in that general area. And again, it is the fence at least is basically a complete copy of what's off Central, which was done just a couple of years ago. So yeah, again, not that it necessarily pertains to the code, but that entire area has been worked on a lot over the last couple of years, and I really think that this would contribute to that overall look that the city may be going for as far as updating all of that.
Gotcha. So you think the electronic messaging aesthetic is consistent and complementary with the aesthetic of Court Street with the recent changes? Is that about right?
I am so sorry. You were muted for a little while. Would you repeat that?
Yeah, no problem. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just wanted to sort of summarize it. Your contention is that the electronic messaging sign is consistent and complementary of some of the changes that have been made along Court Street. Is that right?
I believe so, yes. There are several buildings. Unfortunately, we have not pointed those ones out, and I understand they're probably done directly through the city, but there are several buildings around that do have large EMCs that hang basically directly over walkways. There's only a couple throughout the entire downtown area. However, the idea behind it would be to display similar information, you know, the iPulse stuff, things like that. And we do have the display of these signs set up per street. So the way that they are oriented is to best help with traffic, whether it be foot traffic or driving traffic. And again, just overall the style and more visibility and trying to think of the right word. I apologize. I can't think of the word I want. Anywho, basically just updating and making it look more inclusive with the rest of the area.
Got it. I think in the staff report and one of the points from Mr. Lashide was that they weren't aware of any other parking facilities that have electronic messaging signs similar to these. Are you aware of any in downtown? Really anywhere actually that have the electronic messaging signs in Cincinnati?
The only one that I'm aware of that we actually did a couple years ago through a variance as well was from Mozart Garage over by the new stadium. They have a pole sign with an EMC as well. They wanted one on the building, but it was not going to work with the existing signage they had. And if I'm correct, I believe they have around the same size electronic message center that was approved for their site.
Gotcha. Okay. You said that's the Mozart building. Is that the one with like the green guy on the side of it with the arm?
No, I don't think so. I know what you're talking
Drive
about because
past
that
this.
thing was weird.
Yeah.
It's the one
Um,
right next to TQL Stadium.
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
so
Okay.
1417 Central Parkway should be the correct address.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I see. Um, and then one other question. I mean, we've talked a lot about the iPause,
Mhm.
and it sounds like I'll get some more information about that. But what will primarily be displayed on these signs, or what's the intention for the displays for the what I assume is the vast majority of the time they're going to be lit?
Um, Andrew, I may have you pitch in here just a little bit. As
Yeah.
far as I'm aware, the main point would be to just make sure everybody's aware of standard things in the area, the temperature specific that it is parking, maybe the rates, such things
Yeah.
as that.
Like we would put up like if um like the Court Street has a bunch of events that happen, if we choose to, make that an event pricing type of event, we would put in the signs, hey, event pricing, certain price, or most of the time it'll probably just display the Park Cincy symbol. And if we can integrate it with our system, how many spots are available, open for the public use, because we do have a lot of monthly parkers that park there. So we only allocate a certain amount of spots available. So
Gotcha.
we do get a lot. We get our customer service gets a lot of phone calls. Hey, I we started doing this mobile app, and we did have to stop allowing people to pay beforehand because people would pay for the spot as they were driving in and finding out they didn't have a spot available. And it's like, okay, we need to fix that. So we did fix that, but it would be nice to be able to, display how many spots we have available.
Okay. Yeah, and that all makes sense. And that's I don't think the content is something you can truly consider as long as it's on-site services and as opposed to advertising off-site
Hmm.
commercial services.
Hmm.
So it primarily will or will be iPause and on-site parking
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Well,
Or
I
like
just
if like Blink's going, we may put up a little like, hey, Blink Cincinnati, like, just something fun.
Got it. Okay. Last thing I'll ask here is just another point that Matt made about the variance sought. This is under the use variance standards again, that the variance sought is the minimum that will afford relief to the applicant. Could you talk more about why this is the minimum that you need in order to
sure,
have relief
yeah.
here?
Yeah, the recommended sign area for this right of way and speed limit is 52 square feet. At 32 square feet, we're substantially under that, and at 16 square feet, you're way under what's recommended. So we think that it's justified just based upon that type of standard in the evidence-based model code. As far as sign area, the other thing I wanted to mention too is that the limitation of EMCs for those certain uses in DDC is not the correct way to regulate EMCs. They should be regulated by district. To say that this use, a marquee, can have it, or a certain type of what other use was it? Entertainment use, it is really not appropriate because that's based on content again, as the other part of the code was too. So there's a real issue there. So there's some legal issues with the code.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how much of the legal arguments I can entertain here today, unless, of course, one of you is an attorney. I'm assuming no one here is an attorney. I just like to caution folks about legal arguments without an attorney because it does get into a gray area when it comes to the unauthorized practice of law. But I understand what you're saying. I appreciate that.
I appreciate that too, because that's just my opinion, and it's clearly not an attorney. So that's not a legal opinion. That's
Sure.
that's my thoughts.
Gotcha. Sure.
When was the staff report released? I haven't seen a copy of it.
It was released, looks like November 27th,
Huh.
2024.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Matt,
why.
correct? Please, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, Matt, but that's what that's at the top of the report. That's what the date is.
I
Did
believe
you-
that's correct. It was
Yeah,
added
did you-
to project docs, and the applicant team is notified and made available to them.
Okay.
But I mean, would you like some time to review that? I mean, I can continue this case if you would like.
I
Some
would like
additional
that
time to review that.
because it's probably my fault for not seeking that, because it really would have made a difference to have a hard copy. It's very difficult to respond to the just a verbal argument in relation to it's all quite frankly, it's almost impossible to come up with a good argument without actually seeing it, and that's partially my fault for not asking for that, and I clearly would like to have a continuance.
Okay, yeah, that's totally fine. I mean, that happens often, and I, as an attorney that's been in a courtroom, I understand that it can be difficult to do that on the fly without having read everything. So, typically, what I'll do in this circumstance is we just sort of put a pause on the hearing. We pick a date to come back, and then we just pick up where we left off. In this case, we're sort of at the rebuttal phase where you all have an opportunity to respond to that staff report and some of the arguments made in it. And I know that you have to some extent already, but if you want to spend some more time with that, we can just kick this out for a few weeks. I typically do these hearings on Wednesdays. The problem is the next 2 Wednesdays are holidays. It's possible I could do a special hearing day. I think we could pencil in the 8th, and I could confirm this afternoon. I just want to make sure that I have enough room on my docket for that day to get you on. But if I don't, I think this is something where I can push this out to maybe the following day and do a special hearing day on the 9th, if that would all work for you. So if you all want to just take a look at your calendars quickly and tell me if the 8th and the 9th are generally okay for you, and then whether morning or afternoon is better on either of those days, I can take that information this afternoon and resend out an invite. And basically what I do is just update the Zoom invite, and it just reissues the invitations, and so that's how you all will become aware of it. I can also at the same time share with each of you the staff report in writing, so you'll have that as well. So what do we think on timing?
I'm good. I'm good either day.
Yeah, me too.
I'll be here for another. Sorry.
It's all right. Now I can't hear anything.
I will be here. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mhm.
On the 8th for another sign variance. So if it'll be at the same time or however that works, but yeah, I will be available the 8th or the 9th if we do that.
Okay, great. And Megan, any?
Oh, nope, I'm good with whatever works for everybody else. That
Okay.
other meeting, I think, is the only other one we have that week, so that's the only
Okay.
thing we're working around.
Okay, well, I'll see how the overall docket looks that day. If it's possible that I can just stack those back to back, I'll try and do that for your convenience. I may have
Appreciate
to
it.
split them. I may have to split them up. But again, I'll have that out soon and let you all know. Unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about or any other questions right now, I'll go ahead and officially continue this in progress. We'll adjourn for the next few weeks, and we'll reconvene on the 8th or the 9th.
I think
Anything
that sounds
else?
great.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds
Thank you
good.
all.
Thank you. Yeah,
All right.
appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it. We'll talk to you all soon.
Thank
Have a great
you.
day.
You have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.